Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, out of Noonan, Georgia, home of Southern Sports. I am your host, Richard Holdridge, and I'm happy to be here. I hope that everybody had a great weekend. We had a jam-packed weekend of high school football, college football, the NFL. I will get into all of it, including Major League Baseball as the regular season is over and we have the playoffs. But we had such an amazing weekend, starting with high school game day as it was held on the campus of Russell County High School, my old stomping grounds. It really meant a lot to me to return to Russell County. I was the public address announcer there in 2021. Last year, I was the play-by-play announcer for CTV Beam and the CW Jabama for all the Russell County home football games, and it was great to be back. Had a great high school game day as Coach Dylan Griggs was the guest, the athletic director Larry Knox, and our celebrity guest picker was the former Russell County alumni and current Carver head baseball coach Michael Long Jr., and he joined me on the broadcast, and he did a phenomenal job. We had a lot of chemistry. We called the game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Unfortunately, Russell County fell to the Valley Rams 40-14. I will get into that game later in the show. And the game of the day, Thrift Behringer and Rick Beach from Kutsu Sports called a huge upset as Harris County was able to get the upset victory 28-19 over the defending 3A champions, Sandy Creek. And that was an amazing game as well. I'm going to break down all the games in high school football, and I'm going to reveal, for the first time on Mondays now, I'm going to reveal my top 10 for East Alabama and my top 10 for West Georgia. I usually do it on my Friday show, but I'm going to give it to you early. And just a reminder that on tomorrow's show, I'm going to have Philip Jordan from Wiregrass Daily News Sports, as we are going to preview that upcoming Dothan Central game and talk everything college football, maybe even throw the Atlanta Falcons in there as well. And then on Tuesday, we have the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show at Happy Hour Bar and Grill starting at 7, and it is going to go live, and we should have some incredible guests. Thrift Behringer and I will break down the weekend of sports to include high school football, college football, and the NFL. All right, let's get into week 7 of high school football. Like I mentioned, Russell County fell to Valley 40-14. You know, this was 14-7 at the half, but Valley's Cam Dooley, he had 5 touchdown passes, and he looked unstoppable, not only in the air, but also on the ground. He threw 2 touchdown passes, had 3 touchdown runs. And Bryson Riggins, the sophomore quarterback for Russell County, did have a touchdown pass to Prather Cornwell. And Kelston Popcorn Tarver did have a touchdown run, but it was a little too late. Russell County is now 0-5. They will travel to the Cramden Bowl on Saturday to take on Sidney Lanier. And the Valley Rams, 4-1. They are pleading their case to be one of the top teams in 5A as they make a playoff push, and they get ready to take on Central of Clay County up in Lineville this week. And they have a very great team, and that was just a great win for the Valley Rams to come down to Russell County and get the victory. You know, their last 2 meetings were very close, and so I was very impressed. How about those Harris County Tigers getting the upset victory over the Sandy Creek Patriots? You know Sandy Creek, the 3A defending champions. Say what you want, they are the champions, despite that play at the end of the game against Cedar Grove. Sandy Creek out of Tyrone, Georgia. They're known for Calvin Johnson. You know, they also had Jabari Smith Jr. They won a basketball state championship. Sandy Creek is known for building championships. And they were coming down to the county, and you have a 3A school going up against a 5A school. Harris County punched them in the mouth. Matei Yeomans running the football, Levi Watson with the RPO. And it started out not in Harris County's favor, as there was a early turnover and Sandy Creek took the early 7-0 lead. I was able to listen to the game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live as Thrift Behringer and Rick Beach did an amazing job, as they always do. And it's great when Georgia Alabama Sports Live just continues to grow our brand and we can do double headers. And we got quite a team now. And I was very impressed with the broadcast teams this past weekend. Michael Long Jr. just knocked it out of the park. The fact the current Carver head baseball coach is getting on the mic and talking football, it's amazing. I've had him on my podcast a couple of times. He's been on Sports Visions. He's very comfortable in front of the mic, and he's got a bright future. If he doesn't coach, he broadcasts. So that's something he could do on the side, and an amazing baseball coach as well. I'm looking forward to Carver baseball. He really has turned around that program, and he is a proud Russell County alumnus. We did have some other action in high school football. Let's go ahead and break it down. Thursday night, LaGrange goes to 4-2. They get the victory over the Riverdale Raiders, 42-0. You had the Spencer Green Wave. They are now 3-0 in the region. They get the 61-14 win over the Jordan Red Jackets down at Otis Spencer Stadium. Carver snaps a 3-game losing streak. They defeat their region rival, the Columbus Blue Devils, 40-0. You had Whitfield Academy, the team that is a GHSA Class 1 Division 1 school, defeat Brookstone 29-6 as Brookstone gets ready for the battle for the Brucelli Jug this coming Friday. Ace Charter all over the Kendrick Cherokees, 49-0. The Troup County Tigers, playing without Teo Todd, he's out for the season. They get a statement win, 62-28 over North Clayton. Schley County is proving to be one of the best teams in Class 1 in the GHSA as they get the win over Chatco, 56-7. This was a nail-biter. The two top teams in the region, Callaway gets a narrow win over Columbia at Callaway Stadium, 33-29. The Syrup Makers from Cairo, they get their first region win over the Shaw Raiders, 38-0 at home. Manchester taking on Macon County, one of the two top teams in Class 1A Division 2, and the Manchester Blue Devils get the 18-7 win over Macon County. Hanley all over Lynette, 42-27. It was Eufaula that defeated Pell City, 46-32. And Theodore was able to defeat Opelika. You got Notasulga that defeated Pike Liberal Arts. Auburn, a defensive battle on the road against the 5A champions, the Rams from Ramsey, and Auburn gets the 13-7 victory. They got a big game this Friday taking on the Opelika Bulldogs. Prattville Christian defeats Beulah 30-21. Benjamin Russell defeats Smith Station 34-23. Glenwood, it was homecoming. They get the victory over Valiant Cross 48-12. Glenwood is now 5-0. And Lee Scott Academy, their only loss was to Glenwood. They were able to defeat Autauga Academy 38-12. All right, so this is the time of the show here in high school football where I'm going to reveal my top 10 teams from East Alabama and my top 10 teams from West Georgia. So let's go. Number 1 in East Alabama, the Central Red Devils. 5-0 on the season. They cannot be stopped. Andrew Alford with 20 touchdowns, and Central's got a big test at Garrett Harrison Stadium. They are taking on the Dothan Wolves, who are 5-1. I'm going to have Philip Jordan on the show tomorrow. We're going to preview that game. I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome. Number 2, the Glenwood Gators. Glenwood, which had a statement win over Lee Scott Academy a couple of weeks ago, they are 5-0. And you look down their schedule, they do have some tough games. Autauga Academy, Chambers Academy. But their goal, head coach Ryan Nelson, his goal for the team is to win the state championship for the AISA. They've gotten close. They have not won a state championship since 1993. And this, I believe, is the team to do it because Dallas Crow is a winner. 11 touchdowns in the air, 9 touchdowns on the ground, and he has got weapons, including Cal Lawrence, Camden White. You have Brandon McCrane and Carter Judah, the outstanding sophomore running back. Glenwood's at number 2. Number 3, the Auburn Tigers. Now, Auburn has been winning kind of ugly, but Auburn, and their only loss was to Enterprise, and it was just a fluky loss. But Auburn was able to get the overtime win over Dothan on the road. That was a big win. Ramsey, they were able to defeat them 13-7. They beat Hoover to open the season. Auburn is right up there as one of the top teams in the Chattahoochee Valley. Number 4, Lee Scott Academy head coach Buster Daniel has got a great team that this game against Glenwood really could have went either way because both teams were throwing haymakers at each other. And what Lee Scott Academy has is still a very good team that can compete for a state championship in the AISA. Number 5, the Lochapoka Indians, the Poka Way, still working. Head coach Rico Newton has got a great team, 5-0, and they, after having a bye, is going to host a Thursday night game against Calhoun. Number 6, Chambers Academy. Chambers Academy, after that loss to Lee Scott Academy opening week, they have just rallied off 5 straight wins. Chambers is looking good. I bumped them up in the rankings. Number 7, the Valley Rams. Valley is 4-1 as they take on Central of Clay in Lineville. Number 8, the Opelika Bulldogs. Despite losing to the 6A's runners-up, Theodore, Opelika, you look at their 3 losses to Thompson, to Central, and Theodore. Those 3 teams are great teams. They have a huge test at Bulldog Stadium this Friday, taking on the Auburn Tigers. Okay, you got number 9, the Eufaula Tigers. Eufaula getting a big win over Pell City. And then finally, number 10, the Beauregard Hornets. Beauregard still cruising along. I mean, they've had some tough losses to Valley, Charles Henderson, but they're still a very good team. All right, moving over to West Georgia. And you got to remember, when I do my rankings, this is confusing people at times. When I do my rankings, it's based on, do you have the easiest path to your state title, respectively? So when I do my rankings, I'll put a GIAA school in there. I'll put a team that's 2A, and I might put a team above a 5A school. I mean, it's just the pathway to your state championship. So number 1, there's no question in my mind that the number 1 team is Schley County. You look at what Schley County has done. Schley County dominated Chatco. Jalua Solomon, the 4-star receiver, he is the commit to Auburn, and they have a great team. Number 2, the Troup County Tigers. I'm not going to penalize the Troup County Tigers just because they lost Teo Todd. Troup County is still a good team. Head coach Tanner Glisson's got a juggernaut. They got players that are going to be playing on Saturdays like Noah Dixon and Qua Birdsong. The Troup County Tigers, after manhandling North Clayton 62-28, they will host Riverdale on Thursday night at Callaway Stadium, and it is homecoming for the Troup County Tigers. By the way, former Troup County Tigers like Jamari Thrash and Kobe Hudson are balling it out on Saturdays for their college teams, respectively. Number 3, the LaGrange Grangers, 42-0 over Riverdale. An absolute dominating fashion. Now, this region is going to get very interesting because Trinity Christian just beat Stars Mill. And LaGrange and Troup County both have to play Trinity Christian. LaGrange did lose to Stars Mill, and they lost to Carver of Atlanta to start the season. But this LaGrange team has got their eyes set not only on Trinity Christian, but Troup County on November 3rd at Callaway Stadium. It is going to be an epic finish in this region. Only 4 teams make the playoffs. Can you believe that? All right, number 4, the Callaway Cavaliers. Look, their record says that they are 3-2. You know, I get that. But the Callaway Cavaliers, they get the big win over Columbia. This is a huge region game. They're now 2-0 in their region. But we know that this is a very strong team, even though that was a forfeit loss to Cedartown to open the season. That's why I got Callaway at number 4. The next team could just continue to move up in the rankings. They are having a special season. The Harris County Tigers, 5-1. Look, that win over Sandy Creek really put them on the map. Now people outside of the Chattahoochee Valley are talking about Harris County. I mean, if I can get John Nelson or Matt Stewart to talk about Harris County from GPB Sports, that's a big deal. And you got to factor that in. Harris County's got a massive game at Kinnett Stadium this Friday against Northside. And this is a perfect time to go ahead and plug this game. Thrift Behringer and Rick Beach from Kutsu Sports are going to be at Kinnett Stadium to call Harris County and Northside. I cannot wait for this game. I'm going to be over on the campus of Calvary Christian, calling Creekside Christian versus Calvary. And so I'm excited about that as well. Again, we have a Georgia-Alabama Sports Live doubleheader, and I cannot wait. Number 6, the St. Anne Pacelli Vikings. 5 straight wins fresh off their bye. They are hosting Brookstone at Dimel Field, and they are hoping to hold on to that Brucelli jug. Number 7, the Northside Patriots. They are 4-2, and they got a great quarterback, Caden Clay, along with Kingston Rivers, who is just trucking people into the end zone, and he has got some great highlights. He is the son of radio legend Jonathan Bam Rivers and former Shaw Raider, and he is just special. I know that Kingston Rivers is going to be playing on Saturdays, and I just cannot wait to see what Kingston Rivers does. By the way, his predecessor, Malachi Hosley, got his first touchdown for Penn this Saturday. So congratulations to Malachi Hosley. I called one of his games last year, the Warner Robins playoff game against Northside in the second round. And, I wish Malachi Hosley nothing but the best of luck. And, he did a great job getting that touchdown with Penn. All right, number 8, the Flint River Academy Wildcats. This is such a special team. They are undefeated. I think they can win a state championship for the GIAA Class 1. That's what they are in, out of Woodbury, Georgia. It's a very small town atmosphere. It seems like the whole town comes to see the Flint River Academy Wildcats. Always fun. Number 9, the Carver Tigers. Carver back on track, getting the win. They are 3-3. Their 3 losses were to non-region opponents that were on the last possession. So Carver could easily be 6-0. I mean, think about that. Carver is still, even though a young team, Carver still has a lot of talent. That's why I kept him in the rankings. Got a big game this week against Thomasville. Remember, this was the team that won the region last year. Carver lost 14-13 down in Thomasville. And finally, number 10, the Manchester Blue Devils. They are on a collision course with Schley County. That could determine who wins the region and who could get a good seeding when it comes to playoff time. Well, that's it. I can't believe that I actually revealed my top 10 for East Alabama and my top 10 for West Georgia on Monday. I mean, that's incredible. I usually reveal it on Fridays. All right. It is going to be time for our first commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball. You don't want to go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We'll be right back. We are back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. This is episode 717, just in case you are keeping score at home. And it's Monday. I'm excited that it is a Monday. We do have a jam-packed show. My first segment, I talked about high school football like I do. And, people were asking me on social media, what happened? How come you haven't done your quick reaction show that I would do on Saturday mornings for high school football, or a quick reaction show for college football on Sunday mornings? That's a great question. And I know that it would be nice, putting a show together, because I only have an hour. For Mondays, I want to try to get the best show possible, and I want to try to let it flow with some continuity. Speaking of which, on this fine radio station, WQEE, I plan on being in studio with Ryan O'Neal on Friday from 7 to 10, the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, his morning show. I'm a frequent caller on his show on Tuesdays at 8:30. You want to check it out. It's some pretty good sports takes and sports knowledge that I like to bring to the show. We had a very busy week in college football. I'm going to start with Georgia and Auburn because these are two teams that I cover here in the Chattahoochee Valley. And you look at that score and you think, I can't believe Georgia could have lost this game. 27-20. They were down 10-0. It was 10-10 at the half. Auburn takes the 17-10 lead. I never panicked. I never thought that Georgia could lose this game. Georgia is the better team. Georgia found a way to win this game because they finally utilized Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers won the game for the Georgia Bulldogs. Brock Bowers is the ultimate weapon anytime you get into trouble. And Carson Beck was just throwing darts at him, and Brock Bowers was just grabbing it laxy-daisy with one hand and bringing it down. He's a hard man to stop. And Brock Bowers did get that go-ahead touchdown that gave the Georgia Bulldogs the lead for good. And let me tell you something. I think that this game is just a testament. Georgia playing on the road and in a hostile environment. Georgia is still number one in the new AP poll, but they did lose some first place votes to Michigan and Texas. Some people say that Georgia did not look impressive, but they have a massive game in Athens against Kentucky. Let's go ahead and talk about Kentucky, because I did not expect this. Kentucky blew out Florida 33-14. This was the biggest win that Kentucky had over Florida since 1979, and it wasn't Devin Leary. It was Ray Davis with 280 yards. I hope that Georgia finds a way to stop this guy, because now this Kentucky-Georgia game is really starting to get interesting, and Kentucky is still undefeated. They jump up in the polls. They are ranked 20th. So we have two new teams in the new AP poll. Louisville cracks the top 25. They are hosting Notre Dame. And then you have Florida that dropped out. So let's talk about Notre Dame, because this was the nightcap. College game day was on the campus of Duke. I mean, Duke's a basketball school. We know about Coach K. We know about all the great NBA players that played at Duke. We know about the 5 national titles, but they're not a football school. Riley Leonard, and let's hope he's okay. I know he got injured late in that game. This was a quarterback duel between Riley Leonard and Sam Hartman. And I thought the Duke was going to pull this out, but Sam Hartman redeems himself, down 14-13. He gets Notre Dame in position to win the game. And Notre Dame, after losing a heartbreaker to Ohio State the week before, they're able to come into a hostile environment in Durham, North Carolina, and they pick up the victory. They still got some tough games on the schedule. They got Clemson. They got USC. So we'll see how that happens. The big noon kickoff was USC in Colorado, and USC was dominating this game. They were up big against Colorado, but Colorado, they clawed their way back into this game. They are able to make it interesting. People were still watching this game. I mean, Caleb Williams did have 6 touchdown passes. I mean, I think he could possibly win back-to-back Heismans. You're looking at a player. This could be the first back-to-back Heisman winner since Archie Griffin. Caleb Williams just looks sensational. But you had Colorado that fought hard in this game, and they're not going to quit, especially at home. They lose the game 48-41, and now Colorado is 3-2. I think they beat Arizona State, and I think they beat Stanford. I think Colorado will be 5-2 going into the UCLA game. If they could just get one more win, the unthinkable could happen. Colorado could be going to a bowl game. How awesome would that be if you are a Colorado fan? You had Tennessee defeat South Carolina. That was a good game, getting that revenge game from losing to South Carolina and Columbia last year. They won 41-40. One of the most exciting games that I saw on Saturday was that Ole Miss LSU game. What a finish. The fans stormed the field. Ole Miss gets the 55-49 win. LSU took the lead 49-40 on a terrible call. This was an absolute terrible call. The receiver was not in the end zone. His foot was out of bounds when he finally had control of the football. The refs made the call. The Ole Miss fans were livid, and they were throwing stuff on the field. They were not happy, but they were able to get the big defensive stops. Jackson Dart with his legs and with his arm, and then Judkins had some good runs, and Ole Miss was able to win the game, and this was a signature win for Lane Kiffin. LSU has already got 2 losses. They're not going to run Brian Kelly out of town just yet, but LSU was supposed to be that team that competes in the SEC West, and they still can because they only have 1 SEC loss. But this is going to be a huge game, especially if Ole Miss, when it comes to tiebreakers, let's see what Ole Miss can do, the rest of the way. Still got to play Georgia. I'm just saying, Ole Miss could end up having a couple more SEC losses. All right, Alabama gets the big win over Mississippi State in Starkville. It looks like Alabama is back on track, 40-17, taking on Texas A&M, who beat Arkansas. And Texas A&M's Max Johnson looks pretty good. That 3:30 kickoff on CBS next week in College Station, Alabama and Texas A&M. The last time they went to College Station, remember, they lost to Texas A&M. Some of the other games in college football, I'm going to run down the local teams here in Georgia. What is going on with Georgia Tech? They jump up 14-0 off Bowling Green, and Bowling Green defeats them 38-27. This is unacceptable. I mean, I know that Georgia Tech is rebuilding. You're supposed to beat these inferior non-conference opponents because now you had a big win against Wake Forest, and now you're losing some confidence. You're going to have to play Miami next week. And I just think that Georgia Tech is going to be hard for them to try to get the 6 wins to get to a bowl game this year. Very disappointed in Georgia Tech's effort. All right, let's go down the line. Mercer. I watched this game on ESPN Plus. I Googled who the play-by-play announcer was for the Mercer Bears. I know that Bryce Kuhn used to do it back in the day, but it's the local guy that does sports in Macon. And Five Star Stadium was rocking as Mercer defeats VMI 38-3. You had Charleston Southern. They defeat Kennesaw State 13-10. Remember, this is a transition year for Kennesaw State as they make their way into the Conference USA for 2024. And then you have Point University. They are all over Kentucky Christian, 35-0. Point is 2-3 on the year. They will take on Bluefield. Noon kickoff at Valley Ram Stadium on Saturday. And Southern Virginia defeats LaGrange College 52-26. LaGrange College is 0-4. They will host North Carolina Wesleyan first. Kickoff at 1 o'clock at Callaway Stadium. I got to get to a LaGrange College game. I want to experience that atmosphere. I was talking to Antoine Prather, and he was talking about just the atmosphere there, the tailgating. It's just an electric atmosphere there at Callaway Stadium. And then that is about, Georgia Southern. The largest attended Georgia Southern game as they defeat Coastal Carolina. And then, unfortunately, Georgia State loses their first game of the season to a kind of a local team, the Troy Trojans, the defending Sun Belt champions. And, big shout out to Chris Blackshear. He's a proud reporter for the Troy Trojans. And Philip Jordan also covers the Troy Trojans for the Wiregrass Daily News Sports. And they were able to get a huge win at Center Park Stadium against Georgia State. Matt Stewart was on the call, and he did an incredible job. I love listening to Matt Stewart as a broadcaster. He is very talented at what he does. Speaking of which, we know what the GPB game of the week is. GPB Sports, Matt Stewart, Sam Crenshaw, John Nelson, sideline reporter, Hannah Goodwin doing the studio reporting. They are going to be at East Coweta for Carrollton versus East Coweta. I cannot wait for this game, and I'm excited to talk about this game on WQEE. East Coweta, 5-1 on the season. They are the team in Newnan that could make a deep run in the playoffs, and they have beaten teams like Sandy Creek and Lowndes, and they have had a close game against Lambert, but they've played some incredible, talented teams in high school football. Yeah, I'm getting off track a little bit. I went back to high school football, but that's something I just wanted to talk about. So we got the new AP poll out. We've got everything that's going on. This week, I will preview the games going on in college football. But what we are going to do now is we are going to run down the NFL. And then after that, we're going to take a break. And I'm going to get into Major League Baseball because the season did wrap up. And we'll have Major League Baseball playoffs. And we had a big trade in the National Basketball Association. This could make this team the favorites. I'm going to go ahead and tease that. And I'll talk about that later on the show. The Atlanta Falcons. I can't wrap my head around what I'm seeing. 13 points in the last 2 games. I thought Arthur Smith was an offensive coach. There's no creative play calling. Desmond Ridder is not the guy, obviously. I don't know who is to blame. Is it the offensive line? Desmond Ridder just gets sacked again. He had 2 picks, including a pick 6. The Falcons lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London 23-7. And it's not that they're not utilizing Bijan Robinson because he did rush for 100 yards. They're not using him enough. You need to give Bijan Robinson 30 carries. He is your bell cow running back that needs to carry the load for your team. Desmond Ridder is not the type of quarterback that can get in a shootout. You get down early, it is easy to pin your ears back and get to the quarterback because Desmond Ridder is not the type of quarterback that likes to drop back and throw darts. So Desmond Ridder, I'm sorry. I don't think he's the guy. I think he could be a good backup quarterback, but I think the Atlanta Falcons either need to get a quarterback in the 2024 draft, let Taylor Heineke be the starter, or here's a crazy idea. Bring back Matt Ryan. Yes, Matt Ryan is accurate with the football. He has high IQ. He could still play at a high level. He knows the system. Look, I know he's having fun up in the broadcast booth, but we would love to see Matt Ryan back in a Falcons uniform. But that's just wishful thinking. I think that Matt Ryan is the greatest Falcons quarterback of all time. And that I mean that over Michael Vick, over Chris Chandler, over Steve Barkowski. I mean, those 4 quarterbacks right there are pretty good. But Matt Ryan, since 2008, led the Falcons to a Super Bowl. He led them to an NFC championship, a 13-win season in 2010, their first back-to-back winning season in franchise history. I mean, come on, Matt Ryan was a great quarterback. I say bring him back. He could still play. All right, the Philadelphia Eagles, they and the 49ers are the only 2 teams left in the NFL that are undefeated. Had a scary game against the Washington Commanders, but they were able to get the overtime win 34-31. I was watching this on the NFL Red Zone, and I was like hoping this doesn't go to a tie. But Jalen Hurts gets the job done. Jalen Carter could possibly win defensive rookie of the year. I almost got that wrong. Defensive rookie of the year. He's having an amazing season for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that Jalen Carter could win defensive rookie of the year. Offensive rookie of the year, there are 4 players that I think that could win offensive rookie of the year. CJ Stroud is one of them. The Houston Texans. Are you kidding me? 30-6 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. CJ Stroud passed for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett left the game for the Steelers. The Steelers snap a 2-game win streak. And the Houston Texans, don't look now, they are 2-2. I think that D'Amico Ryans is an inspiring coach. They've got a great defense. Will Anderson, Derek Stingley Jr. I think the Falcons could be in trouble next week against the Houston Texans. This is the type of game where you look on the schedule and think, oh, yeah, the Falcons could probably win this game. Yeah, it's at the Benz. But C.J. Stroud, the last time he was at the Benz, he lit up that Georgia defense in the college football semifinal. I think that C.J. Stroud could come out and have a big game for the Houston Texans next week. My other rookies, obviously, Bijan Robinson could win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Anthony Richardson passed for 2 touchdowns today, but the Colts did lose to the Rams in overtime, 29-23. The other rookie is Puka Nacua. 9 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown. This guy came out of nowhere. He is the Brock Purdy of this draft. I mean, he wasn't the wide receiver that was picked last, but Brock Purdy came out like gangbusters, like lightning in a bottle. Puka Nacua, who's really stepped up in the absence of Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford, I think he's found his favorite target. I mean, no disrespect to Cooper Kupp. When Cooper Kupp gets back, he'll get his 20 catches. Don't worry. So those are the 4 rookies that I think could get Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. Looking at some of the other scores, you had the Buffalo Bills, 3 straight wins. This was the game of the week. Miami, they put up 70 points against the Denver Broncos the week before. Buffalo able to defeat them 48-20. Josh Allen had 4 touchdown passes. A combined 800 yards in this game. I hope people were playing some fantasy players on this team because this was just an exciting game back and forth. But Miami does lose their first game of the season. Dallas, 38-3 over the New England Patriots. I mean, this was a humiliating game for Mac Jones, but it was also Dallas's defense who stepped up in that second quarter, getting 2 defensive touchdowns. This really was an offensive showdown. This was a defense being dominant over the New England Patriots, who don't have an offensive identity. The Patriots have a pretty good defense, so Dallas's offense just looked okay, but it was the defense that stepped up. And now I cannot wait. I'm getting excited for the Sunday Night Football game next week. The 49ers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. I cannot wait for this game. All right, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-1 as Baker Mayfield, 3 touchdown passes. They defeat the New Orleans Saints 26-9. Yeah, the Saints have a good defense, but Derek Carr looked lost. Alvin Kamara's first game back from the suspension. Michael Thomas, Chris Olave. I mean, the Saints have weapons, but they don't have the elite coach that Sean Payton was. They don't have the leadership of Drew Brees. This defense could be great all you want, but if their offense has no identity, this defense will get worn out quick and teams will expose the Saints. And that's what happened here. I cannot believe I'm saying this. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-1, and they're doing it with Baker Mayfield. A lot of people thought that the Buccaneers would be one of the worst teams in the league when Tom Brady retired. So that's pretty cool. Hey, the Tennessee Titans, they defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 27-3. Bengals are playing on a short week. They did beat the Rams last week. The Bengals are hit or miss, and now T. Higgins is going to be out for a while. And this is what the Bengals do. Joe Burrow gets off to that slow start. Then he starts getting his weapons involved. But I think not having T. Higgins, it could cripple the Bengals. And the other teams in their division are getting good as well. Minnesota picks up their first victory of the season over Carolina. They did get a fumble return. They were down 13-7. You had the Los Angeles Chargers defeat the Las Vegas Raiders on an interception to seal it because Vegas was going down to try to tie it. Khalil Mack, 6 sacks in this game, and Aiden O'Connell was in at quarterback for the Raiders in place of the injured Jimmy Garoppolo. Other games, Denver, they were down 28-7 against the Chicago Bears, and they were able to get their first victory. Sean Payton, Russell Wilson era finally gets a victory on the road against the Bears. The Bears the hopeless Bears. 0-4. They're taking on the Washington Commanders this Thursday night. You got the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Cleveland Browns 28-3. Lamar Jackson with 4 touchdown passes. The Browns did not have Deshaun Watson in this game. And then we have the San Francisco 49ers defeating the Arizona Cardinals 35-16. Christian McCaffrey, 4 touchdowns in the game. The 49ers are 4-0. Brock Purdy, completely flawless, 20-21 for 283 yards and a touchdown. 9-0 as a starter in the regular season. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. This 49ers team is the best team in the NFL. Yes, there was a scare, and they did this in the Steelers game. They're up 21-3. The Cardinals have the ball go into their 2-minute offense. Josh Dobbs gets a touchdown right before the half, and it's 21-10. And I knew that it wasn't over just yet because the Cardinals got a big sack on Brock Purdy. They got the ball back, went 99 yards, and got a touchdown to cut it to 21-16. Just for a brief moment, I got nervous. But the 49ers did what they do. And they didn't really utilize Deebo Samuel at all. He was banged up. It was Brandon Ayuk. It was Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle really wasn't utilized either. The 49ers are not really living up to their potential just yet. They're 4-0, but they could be a better team. And I think they're going to ball out against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. I'm hoping to have Gabe Reynolds on the show. If not this week, maybe next week so we can recap that 49ers-Cowboys game. And then finally, and as I'm doing this game, I just want to let you all know that, this game is going on right now. And I have not watched it. I have not paid attention to see how many times they panned to Taylor Swift. But we do know that she is in attendance at this game. And right now, 7:24 left to go in the fourth quarter, and the Kansas City Chiefs holding on to a 23-20 lead over the New York Jets. I will have highlights of this game on Monday's show. I promise you that. But because I'm doing the show Sunday night, and the Sunday night football game is still going on, I cannot get to the highlights. But I am very interested to see the over-under on how many times Mike Tirico has mentioned Taylor Swift on the broadcast. All right, we're going to take our final break of the day. When we come back, I'm going to wrap up this show talking about the end of the Major League Baseball regular season. We got MLB playoffs on Tuesday, and then we have a big trade in the NBA as the NBA season is fastly approaching. You don't want to go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We'll be right back. We're back here on the show. It is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And as always, I am your humble host, Richard Holdridge, broadcasted out of Columbus, Georgia. I've lived in Columbus, Georgia since 2015. I've been doing the broadcasting thing for about 3 years now, since 2020. I love it. I absolutely love talking about sports, and that's why I want to continue getting that content out there. And I mainly wanted to focus on covering local sports to Columbus, Georgia. We're going to have the River Dragons coming up. It's already October. We got the River Dragons. We got Columbus State in November. We got Columbus State soccer. They right now off to a pretty good start. But I'm going to talk about Major League Baseball because the Major League Baseball season ended. The Braves did lose to the Nationals to wrap up the regular season. But they had 104 wins. They finished the regular season 104-58. And that is the most regular season wins since 1998. We all know all those great teams in the 90s. They had the pitching, the 3 Hall of Fame pitchers, and that's why they were able to win so many games. This Atlanta Braves team, not only do they have the pitching, they have the MVP candidates. I mean, they have 2 MVP candidates. Let's start with Ronald Acuna Jr., who led the majors with 73 stolen bases, the only 40-70 home run stolen base club member. But as we look at the final stats for the Major League Baseball season, Ronald Acuna Jr. finished second in the batting title. Luis Arraez from the Miami Marlins ended the season with a .354 batting average. Matt Olson led the majors with 54 home runs. He broke the regular season record by Andruw Jones, did it back in 2005. And he also broke the Braves record with 137 runs batted in. These were 2 categories that led the majors. Over on the pitching side, Spencer Strider led the majors with 281 strikeouts, and he also led the majors with 20 wins. I think the Braves get the Cy Young winner, and they get the MVP. So you're going to have Ronald Acuna Jr. winning the MVP. Spencer Strider is going to win the Cy Young. I mean, I'm just guessing. And then Blake Snell, the leading earned run average leader, pitcher for the San Diego Padres with a .225 earned run average leader. And the pitcher with the most saves from the Cleveland Guardians, Emmanuel Claus, with 44 saves. Yeah, the days of Bobby Thigpen throwing 57 saves or Dennis Eckersley, it's going to be hard to do. One baseball note, I do want to say a melancholy sadness to knuckleballer Tim Wakefield. He did pass away yesterday at the age of 57. We all remember Tim Wakefield when he pitched for Boston, giving up that home run in extra innings to Aaron Boone in the 2003 ALCS, but he was more than that. He also played for the Pirates. He played for the Red Sox. He was a type of pitcher that made the knuckleball look cool. And so he surely will be missed. Tim Wakefield did it for a long time. When you're throwing the knuckleball, you don't tire out as much, and you can pitch well into your late 30s and 40s. And that's what Tim Wakefield did. And, you know, he will definitely be missed. All right, so Major League Baseball playoffs are going to be set. Tuesday, we have the quadruple header. This is why I love playoffs in Major League Baseball, because we get 4 games in one day. And, you know, they start on Tuesday. They go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is a best of 3 series, and it will be at the lower seeds' home field. So here we go. The Texas Rangers, who are the number 5 seed, they're going to be at Tropicana Field taking on the Tampa Bay Rays, the number 4 seed. I mean, the Texas Rangers were leading the AL West for most of the season. The Houston Astros ended up winning 4 straight games, and they win that. And so that is the margin of error to get the 5 seed compared to the number 2 seed. The Astros are now the number 2 seed. I cannot believe that Texas gave up that lead, but Texas has had a good season. They're trying to get back to the World Series for the first time since 2011. They got the manager to do it. Bruce Bochy has won 3 World Series titles. I wish the Giants still had him. They got rid of Gabe Kapler, who only had 1 winning season in 2021. And who knows what direction the Giants are going to go into trying to get a manager in the offseason. But yeah, that's the first game, Texas and Tampa Bay. The second game, the Toronto Blue Jays are the 6th seed. They are taking on the Minnesota Twins, who are the number 3 seed. Toronto's got a better record than Minnesota. But because Minnesota won the division, Minnesota is going to get 3 home playoff games. Some people think it's not fair. All right, moving on to the National League, you got the Arizona Diamondbacks, the number 6 seed, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, the number 3 seed. And then the Miami Marlins were able to grab the number 5 seed. They had such an incredible run, knocking out the Cubs. I mean, really, it was the Braves that swept the Cubs, that knocked the Cubs out of the playoffs. This is a division rivalry game, the Marlins and the Phillies. And I really, really am hoping that the Marlins win this game, because as a Braves fan, which they will play game 1 at Truist Park on Saturday night, you don't want to have to face the Phillies. You want to do whatever it takes. So the Phillies are the number 4 seed. You're either rooting for Arizona to beat Milwaukee, which I'm hoping Arizona does beat Milwaukee, but you're also rooting for the Marlins to beat the Phillies. If Arizona beats Milwaukee, Arizona is going to play Atlanta. And I could care less if the Phillies win, because then it would be the Phillies versus the Dodgers, and then you have the lesser of two evils. Major League Baseball playoffs, it's exciting. We got the NHL season about to start. We have NBA, had a huge trade, as I knew that Drew Holiday was not going to last long in a Blazers uniform. They trade him to the Boston Celtics for Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, and draft picks. So the Celtics are going to be, this season, they're not going to have either Williams brothers, not Robert Williams or Grant Williams. And these were two defensive catalysts on the Boston Celtics. Now, yes, the Boston Celtics did get a very good defensive point guard in Drew Holiday, but are they really better defensively? Still have the two superstars, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. You got some scoring with Kristaps Porzingis. You lost Marcus Smart. Yeah, Derek White gets inserted into the starting lineup. But Drew Holiday, when healthy, is one of the best defensive point guards out there. And so I think the Celtics got a little bit better. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks got a little bit better offensively. And you remember, the Bucks have all those rim protectors like Brook Lopez, Giannis, and Bobby Portis. And so I still think the Milwaukee Bucks are the favorites out of the East, but the Celtics got a little bit better. And we still don't know if the Sixers are going to be good without James Harden, because James Harden is not going to be playing for the Sixers this year. Well, that is it. That was my show. I cannot believe I went a full hour talking sports here on the show. Just a reminder, tomorrow Philip Jordan is going to be joining the show. Philip Jordan out of Dothan, Alabama, from the Wiregrass Daily Sports News. You don't want to miss it. We are going to preview Dothan and Central, and we're going to talk everything college football, maybe throw in some Atlanta Falcons in there as well. And then on Tuesday night at Happy Hour Sports Bar and Grill, it is the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show with myself and Thrift Behringer. And then we also have the high school games that we are going to do. Thrift and Rick are going to be at Kinnett Stadium for Harris County Northside. I am going to be on the campus of Calvary Christian for Creekside Christian Academy out of McDonough, taking on the Calvary Christian Knights, who are 3-3 on the season. That will do it here. I want to thank Ryan O'Neal back at the radio station for keeping it real. Stay tuned for Braves Country today with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, as the Braves have a week off to reset their rotation. Hopefully Max Free will be back in time, and they can get ready for game 1 on Saturday. We do not know the opponent yet. Please don't let it be the Phillies. All right, that's it. That's my show, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your night. Bye, everybody.